San Francisco, ever since the bye week, looks like they have a new fire lit underneath them. Whether it be the Jaguars, Buccaneers, or Seahawks, they're handling them easy. And a big reason for that is their young quarterback, Brock Purdy. But perhaps the biggest challenge in Brock Purdy's young career is coming up against the Philadelphia Eagles. In the NFC Championship game, he tore his UCL, so he never really had the full opportunity to go against him. Purdy headed into this game is with a worse offensive line. They're in the back half of the league, and they have been ravaged by injuries. But nonetheless, Purdy is going to have to put his past injury and everything aside if he hopes to lead this Niners team to a win against the Eagles, and this will be crucial later down the road for playoff seeding. So with that being said, I want to dive a little bit deeper into Brock Purdy's most recent game, where he had one of his best touchdown passes, but also had a pick six. So how did he actually fare? Starting out with Purdy's first pass on the day, there's a couple things I noticed here. First of all, the defensive line is going to get pressure on Purdy, which is something he's going to expect against the Philadelphia Eagles. But maybe what's more important here is how quickly Purdy is able to work through his progressions. You can see he's looking towards the top of the screen, looks back over to Ayuk, and then finally finds Christian McCaffrey on the dump off while getting hit. This is quarterback play at the highest level. While it's not a huge bomb down the field, this is the type of things that keeps the chains moving and is going to lead to a touchdown later on in this drive. Something I love about Purdy though is how he's always keeping his eyes down the field. Take this play for instance. He has instant pressure, but nonetheless, he's keeping his eyes down the field and actually gets the ball to George Kittle. If he's able to lead him a little bit more towards the inside, this would have been a catch. But nonetheless, I think this is a great play by someone who was considered not athletic coming out of the draft. This also helps keep the defense honest. Purdy's pushing it deep down the field, and this makes the defender think twice before undercutting some of those routes underneath. While that play resulted in an incompletion, we don't see many of those from Brock Purdy. Take this play for example. Purdy quickly identifies the zone coverage. Specifically, he identifies how the linebacker and safety squeeze on George Kittle, which allows his underneath route, Charlie Warner in this case, to develop, and he quickly drops it off while getting hit once again. One thing you'll hear about Purdy though is how he doesn't have a strong enough arm or won't be able to fit it in tight spaces. But here for example, in man coverage, he's able to find Deebo Samuel and puts it right on him. The defender doesn't have any chance to break it up, and you couldn't ask for a better ball from Purdy. Even though Deebo Samuel was the one to score on this touchdown, every time I turn on the tape, Purdy is one of the best players on the field, and the thing is, he just keeps getting better. Take this play for example. Everyone said Purdy can't throw deep before the start of this season, and that's his big dock, and everyone will figure that out eventually. But on this play, Purdy is under pressure. But rather than trying to find his release valve in Christian McCaffrey or someone else underneath, Purdy goes to the deep man. He could have easily dumped it off right here to Christian McCaffrey, but he finds Deebo Samuel in the open zone, and Purdy is always looking for this big play, and I think more often than not, it results in one. But if we're bringing up Purdy criticisms, we have to talk about the biggest one. He's a system quarterback, and I don't know why everyone thinks this is a bad thing. Here, for instance, he's running Kyle Shanahan's system, and it's a play-action pass. This allows Deebo Samuel to get wide open, but Purdy is still the one that has to throw it deep down the field, find Deebo Samuel, and be comfortable with turning his back to the defense, something Jimmy Garoppolo, for instance, was never comfortable with. So while some people say system quarterback and cringe, I think system quarterback is a great thing when the system and quarterback has a perfect marriage. Brock Purdy has a perfect marriage with Kyle Shanahan, and he makes big plays time and time again. And sure, he has great players like on this play, Juwan Jennings helping him out, but he's the one putting his players in these positions to be successful. On this play for instance, I don't think Brock Purdy would have any problem giving this all to Juwan Jennings. This guy is an absolute baller on 3rd and 7 and picks up the first down doing just enough. He's a guy who consistently plays with his hair on fire, and I absolutely love it. But this video is about Brock Purdy, not Juwan Jennings. And like I was saying, Purdy has been labeled a system quarterback, but I don't really know what that truly means, because isn't every quarterback fundamentally a system quarterback? But Purdy gets the most out of his system. Here, for instance, he sends Deebo Samuel in motion, and this tells him the defense is in zone coverage since no man followed him over. But maybe what's more impressive is how Kyle Shanahan runs his play action and gets Brandon Ayuk wide open by freezing the linebackers. But Purdy is throwing with great anticipation and timing here. So while many people will just say it's all Kyle Shanahan allowing Brock Purdy to be successful, that's just not what the tape is showing. It's showing a quarterback who makes high-level decisions time and time again. Take this play for instance. Purdy is facing at 3rd and 9, but he doesn't panic once the defense sends out a blitz, but rather finds his man beater in George Kittle. But what I want to pay attention to here is where Purdy is throwing it. Purdy is throwing right here before George Kittle has even beaten his man, but any later it would have been an incompletion, and any sooner George Kittle wouldn't have been able to catch it. This ability to throw with anticipation is rare in the NFL, and I think it's a big reason why Brock Purdy leads the league in passer rating, QBR, as well as yards in an attempt. This allows his guys to get the ball and run up the field much more effectively than the guy that's just trying to put it directly on his wide receivers when they're open. Purdy is a quarterback that continually improves. On this play, we see an improvement that carried over from last year to this year. Purdy last year would have a tendency to spin out of the back of the pocket. But here, facing a blitz, Purdy doesn't panic, but rather steps up into the pocket, and this allows him to throw to the open zone, in this case Deebo Samuel, and get a first down, once again facing 3rd and 6 in this instance, and this would ultimately result in a touchdown. But this is something Purdy improved on from last year to this year, and can you ask more from a young quarterback? Improvement and steady improvement at that year over year and game over game. And often the way you improve is by making mistakes, and young quarterbacks are more prone to mistakes than any other type of quarterback. Here, for instance, Purdy is kind of tricked by Seattle's defense. They bring up and show like they're going to blitz, but Purdy goes ahead and cans in to a different call. This was the wrong decision, as Seattle was only bringing 4, and this could have set up a nice run for Christian McCaffrey. The second wrong decision on this play was trying to force it to Christian McCaffrey with the pocket collapsing. He could have hit use check possibly, but while Purdy did struggle on this play, it's key to mention that Purdy is still such a young quarterback, and while he plays like a veteran sometimes, he's still extremely young and has the opportunity to improve. And this is an area in which I think Purdy is going to improve. He understands that he made the bad decision on this play call, and throughout this entire week, I imagine Purdy's going to go back to this and think the same thing I thought. He could have hit use check, or maybe just have gone out of the pocket and thrown it away. But equally as important to a quarterback that breaks down his film after the game is how a quarterback is able to respond within the same game after he makes a major mistake. In this instance, I like how Purdy still is aggressive and finds not the small intermediate guy, Christian McCaffrey in this case, but rather finds the long touchdown to Brandon Ayuk, and he atones for his sin. He hits Brandon Ayuk because he's the open man in this route, and while Kyle Shanahan said he didn't think Brock Purdy was going to fit it in there, Purdy did, and this is elite quarterback play, and this is the type of things that I see week in and week out, and this is why I believe Brock Purdy is such a deadly quarterback. So with Brock Purdy now facing his biggest test probably in his short NFL career, facing the Philadelphia Eagles, the same team that tore his UCL, I think that he's going to go off. I don't think Purdy is a quarterback that gets gun shy because of past mistakes or past issues. Purdy is a quarterback that lives in the present moment, is able to identify what the defense is giving him, and I think will be a big reason for San Francisco beating the Eagles this upcoming week. These are just my thoughts about Brock Purdy's most recent game, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. It would also mean a ton to me if you liked and subscribed, and as always, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.